Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Standing Committee on Finance of the Brockton City Council for Monday, November 20th. Quorum being present, please rise with me and let's say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 1, we have the acceptance of the minutes of the October 30th, 2023 Finance Committee meeting.
Accepted and placed on file.
Item 2, we have the appointment of Dr. Larry Green of Brockton, Mass. To the Council on Aging as a member for a 3-year term ending October 2026. Invited, Dr. Larry Green. Mr. Green here?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move to postpone the appointment of Dr. Larry Green to the end of the meeting.
Second.
All right, the motions are made, properly seconded to move this matter to the end of the night. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you, it carries.
Madam President,
Yes.
on this item, if I may, I believe this is the second time we've moved Dr. Green to the end of the meeting, and then last time we postponed him. If Mr. Green is not here at the end of this meeting, I would not be opposed to a table.
Okay, let's cross that bridge when we get to it at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk.
Item number 3, we have the reappointment of David Andrews of Brockton, Mass. To the Council on Aging as a member for a 3-year term ending October 2026. Invited, David Andrews.
Mr. Andrews here. Hello, would you come up and... Good evening, Mr. Andrews.
Good evening.
So do you have a statement you'd like to make to
Just that I have been volunteering at the Council on Aging for 10 years now, and I believe I've known many of you from different events, and I believe I've become to be quite an asset at the Council on Aging, and I'd like you to consider reappointing me for another 3 years.
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full City Council.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Yes.
Item number 4.
Somebody.
Okay.
Yes, somebody to do a motion.
I did. I need a motion.
For what?
Take number 11 out. I've done it right now.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to take item number 11 out of order.
Okay, a motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you, it carries. Number 11.
Item number 11, resolve. Whereas a community needs assessment was conducted by the UMass Boston Gerontology Institute focusing on the city of Brockton and its senior populations. Now therefore be it resolved, Mrs. Janice Fitzgerald, Director of the Council on Aging, and a representative from UMass Boston be invited to the second Finance Committee meeting in November to present results and comments of the importance relating to the Needs Assessment Survey. Invited, Janice Fitzgerald, Director, Council on Aging, Caitlin Coyle, PhD, Director of the Center for Social and Demographic Research on Aging.
Good evening.
Good evening, councilors. Thank you very much for inviting us here this evening to discuss the results of the Aging in Brockton, a community needs assessment conducted by UMass Boston Center for Social and Demographic Research on Aging, Gerontology Institute, under the leadership of Professor Caitlin Coyle. I would also like to acknowledge staff in attendance tonight, which is Lauren Conrad, who was the lead on this project at the COA, and 2 board members, Jean Fuller-Jones, our board chair, and David Andrews, who you just met. So UMass Boston, with the help of the city clerk's office, was able to mail out 5,000 surveys to older adults in the community. Of those 5,000 surveys, we were successful in 29% being returned. The timing of this assessment was perfect. With the expansion renovation project well underway, it is a great tool for us as we plan the future of programs and services. In roughly 12 months, we will be returning to a new, modern, and larger building, and we knew that we needed to get a handle on what the needs were of our older adults. Since July, we have welcomed over 110 new members. The buzz is out there about the new building, and in addition, we have already been working on some areas that are mentioned in the assessment. Not to mention, we have a large cohort of people turning 60 who are now wondering what the COA is all about. Based on the 2020 census, Brockton now has 21,961 residents aged 60 or older, to the 15,000-plus figure we have been using for many, many years. Of those 21,000-plus residents, we have over 9,000 registered in our system. We are very aware that with the increase of residents, the needs are different. Our older adults are looking for lifelong learning, health and wellness programs, presentations on preparing for the future, meals, exercise classes, and trips, to name a few. There is no doubt that COVID changed the lives for many of our seniors. It has taken quite some time for our older adults to feel comfortable going back out to socialize, but we have been able to stay in touch either by the monthly newsletter, social media, and even well checks. So that was just a brief little introduction as to why we're here this evening, other than to say hello to all of you and hope you have a nice Thanksgiving. So at this time, I would like to welcome Caitlin Coyle, who will give a brief overview of the assessment. And I apologize for not having the hard copies ahead of time, but I hope you're all able to open the email with the attachment. So, Caitlin?
Great. Thank you, Janice, and thanks to everyone for having me here this evening. I wanted to start with just sort of reinforcing some of the acknowledgments that Janice mentioned, which is to thank her and Lauren specifically, as well as the board members of the Council on Aging. This project would not have been possible without their leadership and partnership throughout the entire process. I also wanted to take a minute to thank all of the stakeholders who participated in focus groups or interviews, and certainly each and every resident who took the time to complete a survey to participate and make their voice heard. This information is only as good as the data coming in, and so we were really excited to have that 29% response, and we want to thank everyone for taking the time. So the purpose of the project was to identify and plan for the needs, interests, and preferences of Brockton residents age 60 and older. The final report, which you all have a copy of, is meant to inform both the City of Brockton and the organizations that work on and behalf of older adults about the strengths and challenges of aging in the city, and to present some recommendations to support the city in its response to these changing demographics and community concerns, as well as to generally increase the awareness about the demographic shifts and the importance of aging well. In addition to the survey that's already been mentioned, we conducted a demographic profile of the city of Brockton based on American Community Survey data. We conducted 7 key informant interviews and 3 focus groups of both residents and community stakeholders in the spring of '23. Janice already mentioned that survey, to which we received 1,443 responses, and as well as a document review of some of the more recent planning processes that have been happening here in Brockton. I think one piece of this project that I wanted to emphasize is the fact that aging does not just happen in the 4 walls of the senior center, it happens in the community more broadly. And so we took that sort of broader approach to the work in thinking about both the needs assessment and the recommendations. So just to touch on a few of the findings, what you see here is projections, age distribution of the city of Brockton looking back to the year 2010, including the 2021 American Community Survey estimates, the 2020 census information, and then projections out to the year 2040. And what you see that's most sort of striking here is the growth in that sort of beige and brown segments of this area graph, which suggests that by 2040, you'll have about 22% of your population age 60 and older, which is how we here in the United States define an older adult. And so Brockton is a big place with a lot of diversity, but age is an important dimension of that. The results you see here are from the survey. So older adults, again, the survey is based on That 1,443 responses of residents who are age 60 and older. So that's what you're looking at here. We asked them how long they've been in the city and how important it is for them to stay here as they age. What you see in the pie chart is that most people have been here for a fairly long time, so 44% of the sample have been here for 45 years or longer. And when it comes to the importance of staying here, that there's a significant share of older residents who want to stay, and that increases with age. So, and the folks who are in their 60s, about 37% say that it's very important for them to age in Brockton. When you look at people in their 70s, that raises to 45%, and by the time people are in their 80s, more than half say that it's very important for them to stay here. And that light blue bar is what people say that it's somewhat important for them to stay in Brockton. So people have been here for a long time, and as they age, they want to stay in the community. We asked a number of folks about, and on the survey as well, about what they value about living in Brockton, and these are some quotes from residents who wrote things in. But generally speaking, people value the proximity to amenities here in Brockton, the shared history and strong social ties, and the vibrant and diverse culture. Again, people like living here, and they have a lot to say about wanting to stay. They also have a lot of concerns. Over those 1,400 responses, about 90% of them wrote in when we asked about their concerns about being able to stay in the city. They wrote them in. We reviewed all of them and categorized them into the most commonly mentioned themes. And those most commonly mentioned themes: number 1, affordability and cost of living. Number 2, feeling safe, and number 3 is housing. And again, you can see some quotes here from residents who took the time to write in and tell us more about those issues. So really, the rising cost of housing and property taxes and cost of living on a fixed income is a big concern for a number of older adults when they think about making their Social Security sustainable over time. And then being able to find affordable and comfortable, safe housing, feeling safe on the streets, and sort of physical safety as well as pedestrian safety also came up. Survey results are shown here. We asked people about how often they feel unsafe in their community. 15% of respondents said that they always or most of the time feel unsafe. And when we asked also about their perception of how local policymakers consider their interests and concerns, we see that actually 23% say they don't know, which I think is relatively important to think about people's just sort of awareness of local policymaking. And then about 26% disagree, and an additional 9% strongly disagree that local policymakers consider the interests and concerns of older residents. So this idea of perceptions of safety, perceptions of being included, being heard in the local community are also important points that I think kind of emerged from these survey questions. We asked about people's current homes and their ability to age safely in those homes, so asking about if their current residence needs home repairs in terms of being able to stay safely living there for the next 5 years. And you can see that about 57% say no, they don't need those kinds of repairs, but 13% say they do and that they cannot afford it. And an additional 30% say yes, they need those repairs, but the 30% say they cannot afford to make those repairs, and the 13% are people who say, yes, I need these repairs and I can afford that. So of people who need home repairs, about 30% say they cannot afford to make those repairs. We also asked about their current residents having a bedroom and bathroom on the entry level. And 23% of the survey respondents said no, that is not the case in their home, and that speaks to the age friendliness of their house in terms of being able to age on one level without the need for stairs. We asked a number of questions about transportation. In particular, what we learned was that 18% of survey respondents drive with some limitations, and an additional 17% do not drive at all. So driving with limitations means they might not drive at night, they avoid driving on highways, sort of limiting the kind of driving that they do to remain safe. Of those 17% who do not drive at all, 27% of them were in their 80s. So when we think about the transportation needs of older adults, it's particularly concentrated in that oldest age bracket. Among folks who do not drive, 30% of them said that in the last year they have had to miss, cancel, or reschedule a medical appointment because of a lack of transportation. And of those who limit their driving, 15% also had that experience. People mostly say that they drive themselves, but 26% say that they have a spouse or child drive them, 13% use the Brockton area transit, and 11% walk or bike. So really reliance on themselves, their friends or family to get around. Financial security is a major issue that we heard about in all aspects of this work. Just to illustrate some of that, we asked, well, what you see on the right-hand side is the median household income of older adults in Brockton in 2021, based on 2021 dollars, and compared to those who are in their 40s and 45 to 64, older adults have a much lower household income, and that gets even smaller among those who are living alone. In particular, women living alone have the least amount of median household income. So major disparities in terms of age and income. And also, when we asked in the survey about in the last 12 months whether they worried about whether their food would run out before they had money to buy more, for those, you see that 31% in their 60s say that often or sometimes was true. And in their 70s, 21%, so about 1 in 5 said that was often or sometimes true, compared to 15% of those in their 80s. So actually, the younger seniors have higher rates of food insecurity here. We asked about people caring for loved ones. We know that's a major piece of the aging experience. And we learned that people in their 60s in particular, 42% say that they have provided care or assistance to someone who is frail or disabled within the last 5 years. Among those in their 60s, about 68% of them said that experience was very challenging to them to be able to maintain that care and their daily responsibilities. So when we wonder sometimes why people aren't at the senior center, one of the reasons is that they're busy caring for their families. The major reasons for that were mobility limitations and chronic disease. We asked caregivers what would be most helpful to them in terms of supporting them during that experience. The most common things were having more informal support from family and friends, and in-home caregiver or homemaking services. You see here a quote from a caregiver that illustrates the desire to have some caregiving support in the home. So some information about the Brockton Senior Center. We asked about current use of the Brockton Senior Center, and what you see here is that frequency by age, and overall, about 63% of survey respondents never use the center, and so we had the opportunity to ask them about that. And among those who do participate, about 59% go a few times a year, about a quarter go at least monthly, and 18% go weekly. So there's a range of frequency with which people attend, but we asked people about why they don't come to the senior center, and this is based on the light blue are people who do use the center, and we asked them about the things that limit their ability to participate, and for the dark blue are the non-users, and so we asked them about what are the reasons that they don't participate more often. The number one reason for those who don't use the senior center is that they don't know what is offered, and that is followed closely by people still working and they don't feel like they have a need for the services that are being offered. They would be more likely, for folks who do not currently attend, people would be more likely to use the Brockton Senior Center if they had more knowledge about programs and services, and that was 41%. Interestingly, also among attendees, the number one reason that would make them more likely to use the senior center more often is that if they also had more knowledge. So continuously sort of learning about the various offerings at the senior center is certainly something that would encourage both current attendees as well as none. Janice alluded to this. We asked people what are the kinds of things they want to do more of in the future. And what you see in this chart are the users versus the non-users, trying to see if there was a difference between people who've never been to the senior center and what they want to do compared to those who do participate. While the sort of size of the preferences was slightly different, the trend was relatively the same, which is that they want day trips, they want performances, they want fitness opportunities, and food offerings. So more sort of physical and intellectual fitness, as well as sort of that basic food. So I'm just going to talk, I'll just kind of briefly, there's a number of recommendations in the final report. As Janice mentioned, they're already working on some of those. I'll just give some examples based on the broad results. So thinking about the demand for senior center programs and services and its expected growth, in between the number of residents plus the opening of a new building, which will certainly draw new folks, to think about promoting the senior center as a community asset to reach potential members, thinking about sort of reestablishing the Brockton Senior Center as a community asset and how we can communicate about that through its reopening. We heard a lot, especially from stakeholders, about the rich cultural diversity and local organizations are an opportunity to improve sort of equity and access to residents. So thinking about having the senior center as part of age as a dimension of diversity, and thinking about how we're thinking about older adults as part of the work that's happening in the city around equity, and thinking about other ways to engage with partners so that the senior center is embedded within this community of organizations that's serving the city. Some ideas for obtaining supplementary and accessible transportation, because that's a particular concern. Thinking about really targeting those who need the transportation. So we saw that folks in their 80s have a particular need for transportation support, as well as people with disabilities. So really thinking about how do we think about transportation solutions that will meet their needs specifically, as opposed to thinking more broadly about transportation. Financial insecurity driven largely by housing costs, so thinking about the promotion of the property tax relief programs and other, trying to document, trying to figure out how to expand that program so that more people can benefit from it, and also thinking about things like local senior discounts or ways to connect residents with local handyman services to address some of those home repair needs that were identified. Regarding the caregiving need that was identified, we talked about potentially hiring a part-time homemaker at the senior center who could help with acute situations or to provide some ongoing support. Respite is a huge piece of this, whether it's a one-night out kind of thing or getting people connected to other kinds of respite. Even if it's a few hours a week, it can make a big difference. We did hear about a desire for outdoor engagement in outdoor spaces and physical activity, but there were issues around perceptions of access and safety that need to be addressed. So thinking about ways to sort of activate the public spaces to include older adults and encourage them to get out and to enjoy the public spaces. And lastly, perhaps one of the biggest findings was this idea that awareness and understanding of the senior center is uneven among residents. So thinking about the ongoing efforts, Janice and her team do a lot of things to make sure people, I think Lauren said they mailed us the newsletter to 7,000 residents, and so there's a lot going on, but just thinking about how ongoing outreach and just continued public education about what happens at the senior center will be beneficial to the community. So with that, I will thank you for the time, and I'll take any questions or comments or reactions that you have.
Or if I could just take a minute to just kind of expand on a couple things, might answer some of your questions. It's no surprise to us that there was a large number of the people who were surveyed did not know about the COA. As Caitlin said, we have a lot of seniors who are still working, caring for grandchildren. A lot don't use the internet or social media. And second, English for a second language is a challenge as well. We really have become a social service agency. Not so much, as I always say, the bingo party place. Our outreach department is busy from 9 o'clock till 4 o'clock every single day. So some of the areas we've already started working on to make sure more people are learning about us, we're now able to get out more to community events. We have members from our board who are helping us on weekends and on days that we can't get out. Social media, BCA, enterprise, radio, mutual aid, website are all areas that we're promoting what we do. In fact, I feel like I have a battle going on with the Stoughton COA because I'll post something on Facebook and boom, Stoughton is right there with their 5 people compared to our 105 people, so I like that. We're increasing the newsletter mailings. We have a position just posted today. We're hoping to get someone who might have is a multilingual individual. Starting an ambassador program, and we actually just applied for a grant last week to get some funds to do a rebrand of the COA. We're kind of getting stale, and we need to freshen things up with a new building. Transportation was mentioned. It's always going to be an issue. We were able to work with Old Colony Planning Council to get some funds to provide passes for individuals to take Dial-A-Bat to and from us while we're at the Shaw Center, and also the fixed route. And we're going to continue that once we get back to the 10 Father Kenny Way. So we're trying to make it so people can get to us without having to pay. And we're just finalizing a transportation program with the law department where we'll be able to get our van out on the road, albeit though it only goes about 25 miles an hour. But we'll get it out there to kind of support what Dial-A-Bat is doing daily. Cost of living, we're all feeling it. Seniors are feeling it probably more than anyone. I know this evening you were discussing the property tax increase. People have lived in their homes for 50 years plus. It's too expensive for them to stay in their homes. How many here want to live in a nursing home? Let me see, show of hands. Yeah, I didn't think so. Our seniors are feeling the same way. You know, they want to stay in the homes that they've had for 50 years, and sometimes we don't make it easy for them to do that. Medication, if they have to choose between medication and food, what do you think they're choosing? So it's difficult. This year has been really difficult. We're doing the fuel assistance apps more than we've ever done. SNAP benefits, more than we've ever seen. We're helping in any way that we can, so as a community, we have to always remember that. Housing, I don't have the answer for that. I do know there's a 3-year wait to get into Brockton housing. We advise people that as soon as you think you want to get out of your home, get your name on the list. Don't come to us when it's an emergency and you have to be out in a week, because there's just no solutions for them. There were a lot of other areas mentioned that are challenges for us. We're using this assessment certainly as a tool. And with that, I just want to thank everyone who participated in the assessment, and we'll be happy to take any questions you may have at this time.
Councilor D'Agostino.
Thank you for joining us tonight and providing this information. There are obviously many topics in here that jump out and are of concern for our seniors, but one in particular that I wanted to ask you about is, you mention in here on page 29, it talks about, does your residence need home repairs? And 30% of respondents said yes, and they don't have the money to do it. Are there any grants or funds or programs available for folks in that situation?
There's very limited resources and funds. We're referring a lot of people to the Brockton Redevelopment Authority. They have a program there, but it's not easy for an older adult to navigate through that. And quite honestly, of the people I've referred there, I don't know of many that have been successful in getting the help.
Okay. You're not aware of much of the specifics then of the BRA's program? Okay.
Of other programs?
No, of that particular program. You said the BRA had some kind of program, but it was pretty tough.
So theirs is more like a home modification type program, and the requirements are pretty specific.
Okay.
So if someone has,
Structural code, things along those lines, or if it's just maintenance, it doesn't apply.
right, so maintenance wouldn't apply. It's got to be structural code type things like that.
I have a couple in mind that I've been talking to and am trying to figure out what I can, point them to. So that's why I ask. All right, well, maybe I'll talk to somebody at the BRA on my own and see what I can learn about that program. But that's it sounds like that's really all there isn't much available to help with these things.
Yes.
Right, and isn't there typically a waiting list to get into housing?
There's a 3-year wait.
It would just seem like wouldn't it be better to have some kind of program to help them stay in the home they want to stay in anyway, relieve our waiting list or maybe start to slow it down. But yeah, it always comes down to money. All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anyone else? Councilor Farwell.
Just a quick question and then a statement. The percentages that you saw in this report, Doctor, have you done these in other communities? Are they fairly consistent, or are we out of bounds with some of the percentages, or how would you characterize Brockton compared with other communities?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have done this work in other communities, and I would say that some of the key issues are similar in terms of caregiving and home repair. I will say that the home repair, that 30% that was just referenced, is higher than what we usually see with respect to the percentage of people who say that they need a home repair and cannot afford to make that repair. So it's usually closer to 10 or 15% of the sample that has that situation, so that's higher. The other two places one particular place that Brockton stood out to me is related to the food security issue. The fact that I think it was about 31% or something like that of older adults have worried in the last year about where their next whether food is going to come from, and that was much higher. That's much higher than what we typically see. And I think it speaks to sort of this fragile situation that has just been sort of illustrated for us, which is that, it starts with financial security, and people are having to choose between taking care of their homes, buying food, paying for prescriptions, and they're making some really hard choices. So that sort of constellation of things stood out to me in particular.
All right, and Director Fitzgerald, do you have sufficient funding? Because I noticed this awareness and understanding of the Brockton Senior Center. Do you have sufficient funding that you might be able to have a buffet in the evening, maybe 2 or 3 times a year, to invite people who have never been to the COA in to hear about programs and services? And then if we had to lease a bus from BAT to pick up people who needed transportation, tell me a little bit about where we are with funding. And I'm not trying to set you up, by the way.
Oh, no. So do we have funding to offer a program like an open house type thing? Yes.
Okay.
We have funds for that. We have tried it before. We don't get a great turnout. Again, don't forget, people are working. People are caring for grandchildren. People think they're not old enough to go there.
I would add to that people don't want to identify with aging, meaning you can push the information, but if they don't connect with the idea, then they won't.
But just as an exchange, I was thinking about taking the street listing book and doing a mailing to everyone 70 years of age or older, and just seeing what kind of a response we might get. If we didn't get a lot of responses, then obviously we might not hold it, but it would seem to me that we ought to make an overt effort to bring people into the fold, so to speak.
Yep, so we're actually going to try 2 things. We're going to offer an evening session quarterly, where we're going to have a birthday celebration for people turning 65 within those 3 months, like January, March. Happy birthday, you're turning 65, come find out now what you got to do. And then the other one is we have an intern from Bridgewater State University who we've assigned well check calls to. So we've started with the older adults, and we're kind of working back. And we're finding that there's a handful of people that are saying we don't know that much about the COA. then she's letting them know. But we can always try another event after hours to try to get people over to see what we're about.
All right, and then I'm going to make a statement, and the press is here, so let me say I am not pitting one group against the other. I know I'm famous for getting myself into trouble, but it always amazes me, and by the way, I have no problem helping people who are migrating to Massachusetts. It always amazes me that we never seem to do enough for the people who have lived here, they've worked here, they've raised their children here, they've sent their kids to school here, they've paid taxes. We have people who dedicate 10 years of their time to the Council on Aging, and I guess I'm trying to send a hint over to my friend Representative Mendes, who was leaving us, that, maybe state government ought to look into something like that. I believe it's the state of Texas, where Texas will pay the cost of the Medicare premiums for their residents. Massachusetts doesn't. You pay your own Medicare premiums. But to help people maybe make that Social Security payment last a little longer per month, Texas, and there may be other states that do that, and it just seems to me that we as a state could do more for our older residents. And again, I am not pitting one group against another. It's a blanket statement that let's help out people who have reached that point in life where I don't want them to worry about food. I don't want them to worry about medicine. I mean, I think those are pretty basic needs. So I thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate both of you.
And if I could just respond to that, amen, Counselor.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'd entertain a motion. Oh, Councilor Lally?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be quick, I promise. Madam Director, I just had a quick question. I really appreciate you all coming for this, and this is, really good stuff. On this report itself, especially with the data this shows us, responsible for more seniors than previously anticipated. Are we able to use this for, grants, funding, some kind of, what do we have in place, if I may? I don't know how much you've got that put together, but.
So if you remember back a few years, probably every year I'd come before you for the budget. We always had that number, 15,883 seniors in the city of Brockton.
Yep.
So we received the formula grant, and the grant it's the formula, 15,883 times the dollar amount. So finally, with this increase from the 2020 census, we are getting additional funds through the formula grant, much needed.
Oh, perfect. But this, report itself, when we apply for things, we can use this report.
Yep.
Which I think is going to be a huge help, because it's very, very well put together. I'll compliment the team. But I do appreciate it, and I would just say, as my own comment, I was struck by how many people, I believe it was, or low 60s, that were polled that have lived in this city at least 35 years, which is, I would argue, sort of a testament to, who we are, what we are, and where we are, that we have that many people sticking it out for that long. But I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
If there's nobody else, I'll move to recommend this favorably.
Second?
Motion's been made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you. It carries. Thank you for this worthwhile information.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
Item number 4, ordered that the City Council authorizes the acceptance and expenditure of a donation in the amount of $5,000 from Hawkeye Fence to the Department of Public Works Highway Division. The donation will be used to build a fence around the Marvelous Marvin Hagler statue. Invited Patrick Hill, DPW Commissioner, Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer.
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
Motion's been
Nice to see everybody.
seconded to recommend favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? There you are, Commissioner Hill.
Brilliant remarks, Commissioner.
Carries.
Thank you.
Stay right there.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Some of my best.
Item number 5, ordered that the City Council authorizes the acceptance and expenditure of the total grant funds in the amount of $80,000 from Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, fiscal year 23 Mass DEP, fiscal year 24 RDP grant, to the Department of Public Works Refuse Division, fiscal year 24 Mass DEP, fiscal year 24 RDP grant fund. This grant will be used on outreach and education materials to address curbside recycling contamination issues, purchase, lease additional security cameras to monitor dumping on public property, purchase segregated storage container for storing fire-damaged rechargeable batteries received from BFD at Recycle Depot until they are approved for shipping facility, repair or replace paint swap shed at the Recycle Depot, and purchase equipment for kitchen scrap composting for sale to interested residents at a subsidized rate. Invited Patrick Hill, DPW Commissioner, Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening, Commissioner Hill.
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
On the motion.
On the motion.
On the
Councilor
motion, just a question, Commissioner. The kitchen scrap composting would be done down at the
Recycling center.
recycling center?
Yes.
Okay. All right, that alleviates my concern. Thank you.
Anyone else? Motion's been made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you, it carries.
Thank you, councilors.
Item number 6, ordered that the City Council authorize the expenditure of $800,000 from the Comcast revolving fund for fiscal year 2024 in order to complete renovations and audiovisual improvements at the Brockton High School Auditorium, more commonly known as the Nelson Auditorium. Invited Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Madam Chair, I have some additional questions that actually have not been quite answered in terms of how these funds will actually be used in the renovations that are going to take place. So if there are no serious objections coming from the council, I'd like to postpone, I'd like to put a motion in to postpone this to a later FinCom so that at least we can get some of these things answered.
Second.
The motion's been made and properly seconded to postpone this to a later FinCom. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you, it carries.
Item number 7, ordered that the City Council authorizes the acceptance and expenditure of the total grant funds in the amount of $17,196,926.76 from Plymouth County to unappropriated estimated receipts, American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA Fund. Invited Mayor Robert Sullivan, Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening, Mr. Clarkson.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, and thank you. We also have with us our ARPA project manager, Dan Pallotta, who's here to answer any questions you might have on the specific projects. The request before you tonight is to accept the total amount of the current county grant, but I did provide you all with a PowerPoint that Dan and our ARPA analyst Paul Umano prepared that really gets into detail on all of the projects we're currently undertaking and gives you some depth in terms of how the money is being expended. This is the second vote you're taking of this nature. When the county first began to distribute the ARPA funds, we came to you with a similar request. At that point, it was, I believe, approximately $9 million. What I told you then was when we were certain of the total amount coming from the county, we would come back and ask for that total amount to be accepted. That is the $17,196,000. So this is, similar to the last time, a request for you to simply take a vote that allows us to use the entirety of that county grant money. We're hopeful as the program continues that if there are excess funds left with the county from other communities that couldn't expend their total amount, that we can increase this even more. But we're working closely with our friends at the county to on several projects that are listed in this PowerPoint presentation. This presentation, by the way, also gives you detail on the $34 million that was provided directly from the federal government. So we just wanted you to have the opportunity to get an update on everything that's been expended. I know some of the county folks are also here to present one of those reimbursement checks to us. We thought it would be great to do it in this forum so that you could all join in that celebration. But we've made significant progress on some of these projects. So if any of you have any questions for Dan on City Hall, the War Memorial, the Senior Center, the Cosgrove Pool, the parks and playgrounds, he's overseeing all of those projects and is available tonight to answer any questions that you have.
Questions, councilors?
Motion to recommend favorably, but ask our county officials if they could come forward for appreciation and make a presentation.
Second.
We do them all together?
I'm sorry?
You want to do them all together?
Well, let's just, well, we could, at the call of the chair, we can vote and then have them come up, or however you wish to do it.
That's how I wish to do it, yes. Councilor, you've made a motion. Anyone second it?
Seconded.
On the motion, Councilor Rodriguez.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I was wondering if we could, it could be afterwards, but once we vote on this, we couldn't go back to this item, that I wanted to hear at least an update on some of these projects that we actually had, that the CFO talked about, to basically see where some of these projects are, what has been started, what hasn't been started, you know, just to give us an update so that we can better inform our constituents. I don't know what is the more appropriate to do it, appropriate way to do it, but I'd like to hear.
Yeah. Thank you. I think I'd like to have the motion withdrawn at this time. We'll continue
Fine,
the
I'll withdraw the
presentation.
motion.
Yeah, just to have a quick presentation of where we stand with these projects, and then we can go ahead and vote on this. I mean, I don't think there's anybody here that is actually against the receiving some of these funds, although some of us actually will have some questions to see if we can get additional funds for a couple things that we're trying to do here in the city as well.
Okay.
I have no objection to information. I would just say that tonight we're only voting on accepting the money. Now, if we're an update, for example, on the War Memorial, we might want to have Ms. Young here, and there are some other people that we might want to have come in, but it's the call of the body, however you wish to do it. I will withdraw the motion, however.
Thank you. Mr. Clarkson, are you prepared to give us an overview of the various projects listed on your PowerPoint?
Yes, for sure. That's why I asked Mr. Pilata to be here, and because we're using some of the funds that you're accepting tonight, I think it's appropriate.
Yes. Hello, Mr. Pilata.
How are you?
Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me back. Where do I begin? I guess I'll begin in this building. So this building, we have two major projects going on. The first project is to bring fresh air and air conditioning to every room in this building. The building right now does not have fresh air. In the old days, they opened a window, and that's how they got fresh air. So as part of the COVID relief funds, we're going to bring fresh air to every room in this building, and we're going to temper it, and we're going to cool it. So you're going to have complete air conditioning in the building when we're completed with that. All of that equipment was ordered about 9 months ago. It's going to start coming in about 6 weeks. And we're going to start on the third floor, and we're going to move the offices from the third floor over to next door where you've rented some space. And when the third floor is completed, we're going to move the second floor to the third floor when the second floor is completed, and so on and so forth. So that's the interior of this building. On the exterior of the building, we have awarded the project to Folan Construction, and they're going to completely replace the roof and repair every gutter. And on the circular end of the building, where the cooling tower is, we're going to rebuild the masonry down about 5 feet, because the masonry is compromised due to the weight of that chiller that was installed in the 50s or the 60s. And we're going to replace all that with adequate steel, and we're going to replace the chiller also. With regard to the Council on Aging, we've begun work on the foundations of the new 4,000 square foot addition, and we have completely gutted the interior of the building, and we are working our way through that project. It is on time and on budget. With regard to the parks, The parks went out in 3 tranches, one for the DW Field, which is in bidding. All of the other parks, except for Hillstrom, were bid as 1 unit, and that has been awarded, and the equipment is going through what we call the submittal process, where the contractor has to tell us which parts and pieces they plan to buy and what vendor, and we make sure that it meets the specifications in the bid documents. Hillstrom is a separate bid. The same bidder that won the other parks won Hillstrom, so we have one contractor doing all the parks, with the exception of DW Field, which has not yet been awarded. The War Memorial was the first project we put out to bid and will be the first project that we complete. Just like City Hall, it does not have fresh air, and we are bringing fresh air to not only the first and the second floor, but to the 3rd floor where you currently house your Brockton Emergency Management, so that once you move Brockton Emergency Management, you'll have the capacity to repurpose that space in the basement. I don't think you're going to rebuild a bowling alley down there, but I do think you'll be able to repurpose it as some sort of office space because you'll have the capacity to do so. The auditorium is currently being worked on, and we expect to turn on all the new HVAC equipment the 2nd week of December, which is a major milestone for us because it'll be the first completed HVAC project that we have. And as soon as that is completed, we'll begin to remove all the steam radiators that you see throughout the building. And we will be patching all those walls, and we hope to have the auditorium completely refreshed by the end of February. Cosgrove Pool. Cosgrove Pool was awarded to APC Development out of Hanover, Massachusetts. Cosgrove Pool, they are just about finished with abating the pool. If you can believe it, the pool had asbestos. All the expansion joints below the paint were asbestos. So that work is ongoing, and when that is completed, we'll begin the demolition of the actual pool. In the bathhouse, we are currently working on removing all of the rotted substrate to the roof. The roof has been leaking for about, 6 or 7 years. A lot of the wood was damaged and needed to be replaced. We're going to work on that, and we're going to put a new roof on that building in the next 3 weeks. We hope to have Cosgrove up and running for the swimming season in end of June, 1st of July. Did I miss any?
No, you covered it all. That's lots of work.
I think I covered it all, Councilor. Does that answer your question?
Well, it does, and the reason why I was asking for this update is so that both the folks at home that have heard that these funds were coming in for these particular projects, but also since we have our friends here from the county to make sure that they understand that this work has been going forward, and then there's additional pickup trucks that need to come in our direction, bringing some more of those dollars to us.
I think that the residents will understand it because this building's going to get staging on just about all 4 sides to get to the roof. It's an odd-shaped building. It's not something you can put a ladder up. So you're going to see a lot. You're going to see a lot of exterior work being done to the building. So it's good. We're going to do a lot of beautiful work to this building.
All right, thank you for your update. Now, Councilor Farwell, you can go ahead and make your motion.
Motion? Oh, I'm sorry.
I have someone else. Okay. Councilor Lally.
Hey, it's me. I'm someone else. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be quick. Good evening, gentlemen. I just wanted to start by, again, thanking the county, because we'll thank them more than once if they give us this kind of money. But Treasurer O'Brien, Commissioners Valenzola and Hanley, and Commissioner Wright, I believe had another matter to attend to, but I appreciate you guys coming out. Just a quick question, because it's in my ward and it came up. Hillstrom is a separate contract, and why was that exactly?
Hillstrom's a second contract because it's not just equipment and fence repair, basketball repair. We're actually adding access. Hillstrom has terrible access.
Oh, yeah.
So we're adding access and parking. So that's a different type of construction, and the people that not necessarily build playgrounds would sub that out and you'd pay double. So I separated it out so that we'd get the biggest bang for our buck and we could stretch those county dollars as far as we could.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for clearing that up. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Farwell.
I'm all set.
I can make
Did the motion.
Councillor D'Agostino.
Thank you for being here and for all your work on this. Just a quick question. I just want to make sure I'm clear on the numbers. So we've got total funds allocated just over 33.8 million. I'm on page 2 of the slide handout. I guess what I'm looking at, I see the total, all right, funds allocated to date and then request from Plymouth County just over 17.1. Is this a 33 plus 17 or is that?
Yes.
Okay. And so that's kind of what I was getting to is have all of these funds collectively, all of it, has this already been allocated to different projects or is there, because it's not adding up, but I may be missing something.
I can answer that. The total number, Councilor, I would point you to would be on your first slide, which is the 34 plus the 17. So the total amount of ARPA funding available between the federal allocation and the county allocation is just over 51 million.
Right.
The reason for the discrepancy in the funds allocated to date is some of the projects are in the works, some have not yet come to fruition, so we haven't allocated all of the funding yet, but the total amount that's available that we will commit is just over $51 million.
Now, when you say that some of the funds haven't been allocated, because...
May I?
Yeah, please.
So on construction projects in Massachusetts, the Inspector General requires you to carry a minimum of 5% contingency for a project that's vertical, 10% on horizontal. And when a building as old as this building, we're carrying 10% on, which is a vertical. So we do have contingencies on these projects to pick up things like the abatement on the pool or the fact that the entire fire protection system in the existing Council on Aging was rotted beyond repair. And they're going to get a new one. So things like that pop up that we can't see when we're designing these projects, and that's why we have a contingency. So if you add all the numbers up, you're going to be short a few $1 million, and that's why. When we're done with the projects and we tally it all up, I'm quite certain that we'll get almost to the penny on spending all of this money. There's still furniture to buy at the Council on Aging. There's things like that that are going to pop up on some of these buildings.
Let me word it another way. There isn't, based on these projects and contingencies and projected things that aren't in here yet, like furniture and what have you for the COA project, there isn't funding within this 51 that's available that a decision hasn't been made what the city wants to do with it yet.
There may be, but we have been extremely conservative in our projections to ensure that we had sufficient funds to do all of the projects that you had already approved.
Right.
If we get to the point where, based on those contingencies, there are excess funds, then we may be able to reallocate them to things that are not listed on here. There were other projects, as you recall, that we wanted to do, but right now they're not proposed for funding because we weren't sure if there was going to be adequate funding left. And so in the next several months, we'll be able to make those decisions, and we'll certainly come back to you, particularly if any of those other projects exceed that $750,000 threshold that by your policy would have to come back and seek your permission to proceed. So we do anticipate, hopefully, we'll have the opportunity to do that. I do need to take a moment and assert that one of the reasons why we're even able to have that conversation is because of the work that Dan has done over the last year and a half working for the city. It's his profession. He has taken his role as the watchdog of the funds very seriously, and the only reason we're able to even have conversations about reallocating funds is because of the outstanding work that he's done.
Great, and I do appreciate the work that you've done in helping us manage these funds and these projects, and
I'll be happy when they're done, Counselor.
yeah, I'm sure you will, as will all of us too, because a lot of this stuff has been.
I lose sleep over this building.
Well, I appreciate your concern for our city hall for sure, and it'll be nice when these things are done for sure. So,
I mean, you look in that corner.
Yeah.
It's a leak.
Yeah.
That leak has gotten steadily worse, and that's related to your roof. It's not a window, it's not a wall,
no,
it's the roof. And we're gonna fix it all.
And there are several areas in this building.
All
the
throughout
other
this
corner right
building.
behind you.
You go up into the third floor attic, and they've got buckets in some of the rainstorms to collect the water.
Wow, I didn't know that.
We're gonna fix it. We're gonna make her beautiful.
Good. And then no one will lose sleep about it. Okay, so basically, for the time being anyway, this is all spoken for, and if things go well, maybe there'll be some extra funds available, but at this point, this is all pretty much allocated. Okay.
Correct.
I think that's what I was trying to get to. I apologize if I took the roundabout way to get to it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Councilors, Mayor Sullivan was also invited to be here on this matter tonight. Unfortunately, he couldn't come. He had a family matter, a school conference he had to go to. If you want to speak with him about all of these, proposed expenditures and such, he's willing to come to a future meeting to talk to us about it. Okay? Anyone else have any questions?
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded to recommend this favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you, it carries. So at this
Motion for reconsideration in the hopes it does not prevail?
Second.
Finance.
All right, never mind. I was trying.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I'd like to invite our county representatives to come forward.
Is that a real check? Does it?
Can we take that through the drive-through at the bank? Will they take it that way? Will it fit in the tube?
Good evening, Commissioners.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to the committee and to the councilors. My name is Jared Valenzola. I'm Plymouth County Commissioner and Chairman, and I am joined by Commissioner Greg Hanley here to give a presentation. Also with us is Treasurer Tom O'Brien. We just have a couple of brief words, and then we obviously want to take any questions you may have. We also do want to recognize former Commissioner Dan Pallotta, who just gave you guys a presentation. As you folks are aware, we undertook the CARES Act several years ago, or about 3 years ago now, which is hard to believe, with much success, less than 1% expended on administrative costs, which meant the city of Brockton receiving $19 million in CARES Act funding, which was the second most in the Commonwealth, second to the city of Boston, who received their own direct allocation from the federal government. So we were really proud to partner with the city, partner with the mayor, and partner with the city council on that. As we've pivoted into ARPA, we've continued providing that service. One of the things we're proud of with the Plymouth County ARPA program has been the administration of that, and Treasurer O'Brien and his team have kept that expenditure, has kept the administration of that to roughly 1%, which is well below the national average of 7 or 10%, which I know, Councilor, you had some questions, and I know Mr. Clarkson had mentioned some potential more funding based on communities not using it. I can tell you, just based on the Treasurer's work of keeping that administrative costs low, that is going to result in more money for Brockton and for the member communities in the council, in the county. And I do just want to recognize President Nicastro. She is as you know, your advisory board member in Plymouth County, and we're really grateful for her service to the county of Plymouth on that body, as well as her advocacy for the city of Brockton overall. So that is it for me for now. I will turn it over to Commissioner Hanley to say a couple of quick words, and then we have a couple of checks for you folks tonight, if we may. We know we have an ARPA check. We also have a burn grant check as well for $68,000. So it's interesting how these two are sort of married together. The ARPA funds are for the infrastructure for the radios. The burn grant check, which we're happy to administer for Brockton, Plymouth, Wareham, and Middleborough, is for the actual radios. So Plymouth County is proud to be able to continue to provide those regional services for the city. And with your permission, Madam Chair, Commissioner Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chair, members of the council, and Mr. Clerk, thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. I'll echo the sentiments of my chair, and thank you for the judicious use of these funds. After this presentation tonight, I can assure you that you do have an owner's project manager that knows what he's doing, number one. Number two, when you look at the public health and public safety uses of this money, it's also judicious when it comes to public health and safety. When you look at air exchanges and why and how COVID spread throughout the years, is because antiquated systems. When you look at all the infrastructure improvements that you're using as potential stackable amounts of money that is not raise and appropriate, that is significant. I know the mayor has put together a team of professionals that have identified these projects that have long plagued the city, and now you're using this money after tonight's hearing on the tax rate that is reducing your costs with outside money for one-time use of funds. That is, within the county, probably the best use of funds that we have seen here at the county. So I want to thank you for your leadership, Madam Chair, especially your support of the advisory board and the votes and the experience you bring to these conversations that we have for the county to administer such funds. Now, there is life after ARPA, and we'll be looking to partner with you in the city for more regional projects. At one time, there was an annual referendum on the what to do with county government, and we're here to look for these types of partnerships to continue into the future to keep us relevant. So thank you again for the opportunity. I'm reminded of the grandeur of this hall. It brings me back to my roots in the City Council of Quincy, where all the action is in the city. So I applaud you all for your decorum. The way you run a meeting, Madam Chair, is very efficient, and the respect that you give to these speakers is phenomenal. The Council on Aging presentation was wonderful, and I think there may be opportunities, which you're already seeing in the campus of the COA, on what can be done. Representative Mendez is going to be a champion, I'm sure, for this community. She's done a fantastic job. And I do, as a moment of personal privilege, want to thank the mayor for inviting me to the Veterans Day ceremony that you had in the auditorium. It was phenomenal. And as a personal note, the colonel that is running your junior ROTC program is a graduate of Norwich University and was a classmate of mine. So I was pleased to be there. I pledge my support to that program. I'm looking to have a cornhole tournament to help support their dining out in the spring. So I'll make sure I hit all of you in your OCPF funds for a contribution to that program. It was phenomenal. So thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for yielding the floor.
Yes, and thank you. And if I may, just one last quick moment, Madam Chair. I was remiss in mentioning Rep. Mendez, Rep. Dubois, Rep. Cassidy, and Senator Brady have all been staunch advocates for the city, for these funds, and we appreciate their partnership, and as well as Congressman Lynch.
Of course.
Thank you.
So what have you got for us tonight?
Yeah, so we have a couple of checks.
We turn that over to the treasurer.
Yes, we know we have a burn grant check for the police department. I saw the chief was here. She is back. Excellent. So we would like to give her that check. We know it'll probably end up in Mr. Clarkson's hands. We do appreciate working with Troy, with the mayor, with Paul, with Mr. Pilata, and everybody. You know, it's a good team. It works really well cohesively, and we're really proud of that local partnership. So we'll start with the burn grant, and then I know Commissioner Hanley pioneered the Plymouth County Flag Program. So we see you're a little out. You have one and then two. So we have a flag for you as well, and then about $900,000 for the radio infrastructure. So if we may, I don't know if you want us to approach, and we can go that way. Okay.
How about right in front of this area here?
Sure.
So everyone can see it.
We don't have a big check for that, just for our.
Madam President, why don't you come down?
Sure.
So I'm presenting the chief this evening with a check for $68,703. As was mentioned, this covers the portable radios for the department. The chief has been a strong advocate in the use of these funds and these resources. She's working with our team every day to make sure they come back to the city of Brockton. We couldn't be more proud to present them to you this evening. You're welcome. Thank you. She's just letting us know the team at the county is great.
Yes.
Did you want to add anything else?
I appreciate their support and their continued partnership. It's been great through the years and hopefully continue on.
Yeah, for those that have had to deal with federal grants, and I know many of you in the room have, they're not easy. They take a lot of work and a lot of time, and we have a great partnership, so we appreciate your team helping us get it to you. Now we have a bigger check, and I don't know who we want from the city council to come and join us for the finance committee. This is for the, as the commissioner mentioned, this is for the radio communications infrastructure. So we'd love to have all of the representatives join us. Is that okay, Madam Chair? It is for $839,839.87. So that money that you heard of is right here coming. The actual check is in the finance director's hands. I want that for the record. And I think we all gather around. This is a lot of effort, starting in the mayor's office, with his team in the finance office, through you folks here, with the federal delegation, the state delegation. This money comes back to the city of Brockton, has been put to good use, and we're just thrilled to be a part of the team to present it to you.
Outstanding.
Sadly, I almost forgot to smile.
Got the check.
Okay, one more presentation.
Oh, yes.
It's upside down, Greg. I didn't get a picture of that.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the chairman for recognizing the pioneering. I almost feel it's appropriate being so old in the county. Now we're so close to Thanksgiving with the pilgrims. I think it's time that we exhibit a little Plymouth County pride by presenting you this record that Mr. Clerk, I hope you hang proudly. We're going to have to apply for funds to get a pole, but, you know, I think
we know a guy.
We know a guy. So thank you, and we hope that you wear this proudly and display it proudly in this week.
Thank you.
I think that would fit around me.
To be a champion.
That's not controversial.
Thank you, guys. The clerk of the hall. And by the way, both of those checks are part of the minutes, but you have me too. We'll get them all. But then I don't think you leave with those checks.
Still good.
Thank you for everything. And we had a long night last night.
Mr. Clerk.
That was number 7.
Number 8.
Number 8, ordered, whereas on March 27, 2023, the city of Brockton has entered into a tax increment exception tie agreement with 380 Quincy Street LLC for property located at 380 Quincy Street. And whereas paragraph D, assignment of section 6, miscellaneous prohibits the assignment or transfer of the tie agreement without the written consent of the municipality, which approval shall not be unreasonably withheld. And whereas 380 Quincy Street LLC has agreed to sell their interest in the subject property to Quincy Street LLC, and whereas 380 Quincy Street LLC has petitioned the city of Brockton to consent to the assignment of the tie agreement to Quincy Street LLC, now therefore be it ordered by the city council that the city of Brockton grants its consent to the assignment of the tie agreement to Quincy Street LLC. Invited John O'Donnell, Chairman, Board of Assessors, Mayor Robert Sullivan, Rob May, Director of Planning and Economic Development, Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening again, Madam Chairman. So, I guess in a night filled with good news, this is more good news. This project is proceeding. This is, you approved a tie agreement some time ago for this project, and the project is moving forward. The owners of the project who are here this evening, as I had noted to you in an email over the weekend, have sold the project, and the language of the agreement requires your permission to do so. So we're simply here before you tonight to preserve the project so that it moves forward and ask you to assign it from one owner to the new owner. And Mr. Mather, the current owner of the project, is here tonight should you have any questions.
Councilors, I spoke with Rob May, the planning director, earlier today. He's unable to be here. He assured me that this is a very common thing, that when the projects are sold, the tie agreements are typically transferred. They run with the land, and so the current owner is the one who gets the benefit of it.
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you, it carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Item number 9, ordered in accordance with the general laws of Massachusetts, Chapter 44, recommending that the City Council approve the expenditure of $14,179.36 from the Traffic Commission Purchase of Services Engineering, $5,670, to CDM Smith. Same amount from Traffic Commission Purchase of Services Public Safety, $2,059.64 to the City of Brockton Tax Collectors. Same amount from Traffic Commission Goods and Services, Traffic Lines and Signs, $6,449.72 to K5 Corporation. Invited Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer, Captain Procaro, Traffic Commission.
Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chairman. This is the latest of several of similar items that have been before you. As I've stated, we have made a concerted effort to tighten up our year-end procedures to strongly encourage and inform vendors that bills have to be in at the end of the year to be paid. So this grouping is a group of bills for the Traffic Commission that were received after that deadline, and the law requires us to come before you to have them paid. As you know, Captain Procaro runs a very tight ship there. We have expressed to the vendors how important it is to get their bills in on time, but the captain can answer any specific questions you have about these bills.
Motion to recommend favorably to the full City Council.
Second.
And I'd just like to say, before we go further, the clerk was being very generous. This is actually for $14,179.36.
Did they say 14 million?
Yes, you did.
I didn't
Well,
catch
that's a pretty
that
common
either.
number.
Must work at the school department.
Nice work, Madam Chairman.
So the motion is made to recommend favorably. Do I have a second?
Fine job.
Okay, anyone on the motion? All right, then, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, councilors.
Item number 10, resolve to have Nathalie Jean, the Executive Director of the Brockton Redevelopment Authority, appear before the Finance Committee of the Brockton City Council to introduce herself and update the City Council on the BRA and the Executive Director's plans moving forward. Invited Nathalie Jean, Executive Director of the BRA.
Good evening, Ms. Jean, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Sorry I couldn't be here last time, but
That's okay.
so hello. My name is Natalie Jean. I'm the Executive Director of the Brockton Redevelopment Authority. I started in the position on May 1st of this year, and so I've been in it for just about 6 months. And my goals in coming to Brockton to work for the authority is that I love community development. I love the work of helping people and also in managing land and implementing policy. And so that's why I'm here. My background is that I hold a Bachelor of Arts from the College of the Holy Cross in English. I also attended Tufts University and earned a Master's of Art in Urban and Environmental Policy and Planning. I Also, after going to work and wanting to refresh my knowledge and my skills, I returned to work and got a postmaster's from Tufts, this time in sustainability. And so I really am very dedicated to the field of urban development and planning, and have prepared myself for such a role. I thank you for the opportunity for inviting me tonight. Since I've gotten to the authority, I have continued a lot of the projects that I found were in place when I got here. For example, we have the homeowner rehab program. I continued that. And I noticed tonight there were some questions about how that program operates and why not everyone always is has access to it. My understanding is we have a 2-year waiting list that goes back to about 2021, and it's of about 60 properties. Nevertheless, there were some properties that got done over the years, and since my time here, we have been trying to plug away, and we've hired someone who will be starting on November 27th, who has a lot of experience in the field of managing facilities and in the work of working in overseeing properties and just the direct housing rehab work. And it's cumulatively, it seems it's about 30 years of experience that she brings to the role, and we're hoping that experience will allow for us to get through the backlog of cases faster. The plan is, so last Friday we had a walkthrough for about 5 properties here in Brockton. We also have completed another 3, and then we'll start plugging away at that backlog. And the plan is to really determine whether the applications that comprise that list, whether those properties truly are emergencies. And so we have a rehab specialist, and we hope that with our new rehab manager, we'll be able to just quickly go through all of those properties, make an assessment and a determination as to whether those are truly emergencies. And then if someone does not have an emergency project, we will send them a letter letting them know they don't quite qualify for the program, and try to make referrals to other resources in the community within the state that could respond to their need, and then get through the rest of the backlog and just get to the point where we have a program that does not have such a long waiting list. And we also have the public improvements projects, which is where there are facade improvements that happen to storefronts, and we try to provide some funding to business owners so that their properties are not eyesores in the community. We have had 3 applications since my time here. The only problem is that some business owners don't quite understand that there is a mortgage, a lien that is placed against the property once they accept to participate in the program, and 2 of them have dropped out. Another is still very enthusiastic about participating despite knowing this, and so on Wednesday, before we go into the Thanksgiving holiday, that person will come in, and then we will send her a letter to proceed so that she can continue with projects. We also continue the work that we've always done with developers. For example, we've sold I-3 and I-4, which is a property that is on Petronelli Way, and that was sold to New Vision Enterprises, and they will. Right now, when we went to closing, Joseph Goncalves, who is the owner of NVE, indicated that he is still cobbling together the financing for the deal. And so, but in terms of our part, everything that we were supposed to do for that project is done, and we've sold the property so that he can, whenever he's ready, build on the lot. We also were approved for a brownfield remediation grant, and we received that a few weeks ago. If you look on our Facebook page, you'll see where we attended an award ceremony with the governor presenting those awards. There will be more awards because they're more specific to different areas, but we attended the first one. And we also have another brownfield grant that is in process, and that has meant that we have on Frederick Douglass, we are doing remediation work on a property there that we own. We also have a developer who's very engaged, very interested, who's always looking to learn more about the project, the process on that work, and so we've continued that type of work. We also had an RFP that was out. That RFP was for the redevelopment of the CSX area, and Charter Development was the chosen developer for that project. Originally, it felt as though we were talking to ourselves when we reached out to CSX to say, we have a developer that's designated for this work. We'd like for you to start working together now. We were getting no responses, but as of the last few weeks, we've gotten responses, and there is going to be a meeting on the 29th of November. It's set with the real estate disposition people at Charter Development, and they will be talking to us about the possibility of redeveloping that area. I understand that it's been a long time coming for the community. I've been told that the plans for redeveloping that area have been in the works over many years, but finally we've gotten a response from CSX. We also, we have the housing rehab program, and I explained how it's really emergencies that are a priority in that program, and unfortunately, everyone who applies will not receive services, but we do try to work with folks and try to make referrals to other programs that are more appropriate when they contact us about minor repairs that need to be made and that we can't take on. We also have the kitchen infrastructure program, which is a Section 108 loan program through through HUD. That program allows for businesses to build out their kitchens and to receive funding from us. There is currently one local business that participates in that program, and their participation continues. We process payments. We work in collaboration with the city because the city played a big part in fronting those costs. And now we administer the process by sort of like liaising between the city and the BRA in making sure that those funds continue to be made and there are no defaults in that process. In terms of the public services, this is where we subsidize the work of nonprofit agencies to give them a little bit of funding so that they achieve more of their goals, accomplish more of their goals. We have 11 public service agencies we have that we're currently working with. We also, as I said, continue with public facilities projects. We have with facade improvement. Again, I'll say that we had the 3 applications and the 1 contract signing that will occur next week. In terms of business assistance, we've kept up with the workshops, and we've done so in collaboration with NeighborWorks Housing Solutions. And some of the workshops have been on the basics of setting up a business, providing all types of pointers. Some of them have been all day, others have been just a short workshop on Canva, how to use the marketing tools that are offered through there. And so everything that the BRA has always done, I continue today. The Lincoln School project, which is the conversion of that school into 37 units of senior housing is close to completion. We were supposed to have closing calls today, but as you know, with such a huge project and so many funders at the table, it's complicated sometimes, and so that was delayed, that process was delayed, but every aspect of that project that included a City of Brockton component has been fulfilled. We've provided everything that they could possibly have wanted from us, and so that work has been completed. Manley Street, which is the transfer really of the of FBMS to the former VA campus, is in process in terms of the process itself. It's there. The closing has taken place. It's just a matter of waiting for when they request the funds, so that the subsidy that the BRA will provide on behalf of the city to the project can then be processed and used. We also have other projects that are in the pipeline. For example, we have Hotel Grayson, also a project that will be coming from NHS. We have 142 Main Street and 137 Main Street. They also are interested in receiving home funding. One of the mandates of the BRA that has always existed is on the issue of homelessness. There is a CPD notice that was actually released by HUD years ago, and every time we present our 5-year plan, which is known as the consolidated plan, to HUD, we must talk about homelessness. We must talk about what we will do about this issue that has been exploding of late. In every community in Massachusetts. I mean, even if you're the most quiet suburb, there has been some connection or in some way you've become more aware of homelessness, whether it be on television or just because your community, you're absorbing more people who've come from other countries, more refugees, and so it is. This has been an issue that has always been a part of the wheelhouse, even though it may not have been touted frequently. And so as a result of that, and I guess like for me, I have seen a visible change in Brockton in the time that I've come here, from the summer to now. I don't recall when I first started here seeing people under the bridge, where you see blankets under the bridge, you see bikes under the bridge, you see people congregating under the bridge. And so because of that, I want to see us become more involved in helping to solve this problem. And so one of the initiatives that we launched is called the Umuganda Challenge. And we base it on the fact that in Rwanda many years ago, after the genocide occurred, there was a need for community cohesion. And so the country created Umuganda, and it mandated once a month that people come out and clean their communities. And they have done small things such as gardening projects to major infrastructure projects through Umuganda. And so using that concept, we've been rolling out this concept of the small business community. So I call it the people that we are closest to within the community. And we do a lot of work with the small business community. We do a lot of work with nonprofits. And so we have issued a challenge to them, the Umuganda Challenge, to ask that they do their part in some small way to address the problem of homelessness, which is so very visible to us here in the community. And we rolled that out at orientation for CDBG recipients. We also held an actual mixer last Thursday, and we introduced the Umuganda challenge to the people that were who were gathered in the room. It was a great reception. The response was really good, and we hope to actually see success and not just sort of like have introduced it and then towards the end of the year see really not much of a change. We have broken down into more into smaller pieces during our presentations about what exactly we're looking for and how people can make a difference. But that is a way that we feel that we're addressing a problem that we should be addressing, and then also for the community to be involved. Today, we sent out an email asking the small business community, the nonprofit community, if they are interested in providing space, if they have like a vacant building in the community that can take in people during the cold winter months that are upcoming, if they are willing to provide a bathroom, because I attended a community meeting a few few weeks ago, and one of the things that came up is the fact that there is public defecation that is happening in the community. It's not something that I had realized, but people openly discuss this, and so we are asking whether people would be interested in providing a space where people can relieve themselves if they have the need. Also food, if people are hungry, can people go to certain businesses to request food and see what the response is. We know that it's a very broad mandate that we have taken on, but we do think that it's doable, and we've been slowly rolling it out, and we're very aggressively pursuing it. I do it because I have done it before in another community, and I feel as though Brockton deserves the same kind of opportunity, and so the Umuganda Challenge is out there. And then I also, one of the other initiatives that I'd like to pursue is known as the, sorry, I'm a little nervous, but it's known as the Duty to Serve mandate. It's overseen by the FHFA, and I would like at some point to also roll this out into the community. I have not fully formed it in the way that I have the Umuganda Challenge, but this is something ultimately that I would like to also see develop in the community in terms of developing different forms of housing, having different forms of housing subsidized and offered to the community. And so those are the plans that I have and the things that I have been doing since I've been here in Brockton since May.
That's great. Councillor Azak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Ms. Jean. So Councillor Texera and myself filed this resolve a while back, and the reason was we were at a few events, and we had met up with some previous employees of the BRA, so it brought us curiosity to see what was going on, at the BRA, and I hadn't had the chance to meet you. I had heard that, we had a new executive director, but didn't have the chance to meet you yet. So this is a great opportunity. Thank you for being here. It's exciting, all the great things, that you mentioned. A lot of it I was aware of as it was brought up during the annual meeting back in the spring. The BRA is really a very important agency here in the city. It's you guys do a lot of things, and there's a lot of opportunities for the betterment of our community, of our city, as well as our residents and business owners. So I say it all the time, there's a lot of programs through the BRA, but sadly, businesses don't find out about them. You mentioned a few this evening, and even earlier on, the Council on Aging director brought them up. What are you doing to get this information out into the community? Because actually, until, inviting you here this evening, I'd never received any of the emails or finding out about these great ideas that you have, but I feel I would like you to share them with us. That way we can share them with our constituency or, with the businesses, because communication is key, and getting the information, especially we're getting funding, if we're getting funding that businesses can benefit from or residents can benefit from, we want to make sure that they know about them and that they can apply for them. So what are your plans to get the information out into the community?
So we've actually hit the pavement. We've gone to the businesses right here in the downtown and met with them and talked to them about our programs and initiatives. But one of the things that I have admitted, especially at the mixer when we held it last Thursday, was to say we do need help with our outreach, because we had a staff before that was very much local, and now we have many people who come from different areas into Brockton to work. And so we said, we would like we would like some help in terms of outreach. We would like for people to introduce us to folks that they think we should be talking to, who we should be interfacing with, because we don't have all of the answers. We have the ideas, and we do use the tax tactics and strategies that that I've been told were effectively used in the past. However, people don't know us as well. We're the new faces. And so if you want to walk the block with us, if you want to join us on an afternoon and say, 2 hours, we just walk in, meet business owners and introduce ourselves and say, this is what we're doing. We're doing the Umuganda Challenge. We'd be happy to get that help, because I do think that is something that we need to work on, is trying to get our faces known in the community. And I think that we'd be happy to receive any help that anyone provides in, again, helping us walk the block, to meet people. And walking the block doesn't always just mean pounding the pavement, but I have been going to the Campello business meetings. I have been going to whatever, I'm invited to. I will go to these I will take up these different opportunities to try to get my face out there, to try to introduce myself and make it known that I'm here and I want to work with people.
I think that's great, and that's what that's why you're here, so people get to know you and realize that we have a new, executive director at the BRA, because Mr. Jenkins was there for many years, and he was just part of, the community, and it was easy. So this is a way for people to get to know you as well. So once again, one of the reasons you're here is there was a number of previous employees, but I guess they've all left. I know that. Is there a reason for that? They were all from the Brockton community, a lot of, young people, and that's why this came about. Can you give me a little background why everybody's gone, or why they've pretty much left the agency?
Madam Chair, could I raise a point of order here for a minute?
Yes.
With due respect to Councilor Azak, I don't think we should get into personnel issues, and secondly, there may or may not be matters that are under further investigation, and I would just like to leave it at that.
Sure. Well, I'm not aware of any investigations. My concern was, Ms. Jean just mentioned that the previous employees were all of the community, and now everybody's from outside of the community. So as a counselor, I'm just curious why there's nobody left from the community at the agency.
All I can say is, when I came into the agency, I did not come in and, turned anyone's world upside down. I was told that that the remote work option was no longer. I was enforcing the agency's regulations. I can say that my perception was that there were some grievances that people had, and they had hoped that I would address them. And I could not be sort of like a fairy godmother, and these were issues around raises that were never given, or, hours they wanted to work that were no longer available. They felt that had changed, but it wasn't implemented by me. I arrived, and I have the longest commute out of everyone there. I would love to still be working from home every day, and that would be the most convenient for me, but I respected the policies that were presented to me in my coming here. And also, I come from the Boston Planning and Development Agency. We also had a new director there, and there was an exodus, by people who had long been employees of the agencies. And I did not question that. I felt that, that is sometimes par for the course when there are changes and people feel as though they're used to doing their work a certain way. But when somebody's new, that's not, I couldn't blame it on Mr. Jameson when he came into the agency, that it was his fault that people were leaving.
No, there's no blame here. I'm just trying to understand why we went from all local employees from the city to, you just said, everybody. There are people that are working there that don't know the community. And I'll be honest with you, working remote works great for a lot of jobs, but for the BRA, I think working remote isn't the ideal thing, because we need some people that are here in the community that know the businesses that are going. Adelsa Mendes came in from Boston. She was here previously. I don't know if you've had the chance to meet her, but she went door to door from businesses. She got to meet people in the community, and that's what we need downtown, and that's my only concern. I'm not putting blame on anybody, and I know you're new, and it takes time to get, to get your feet wet, but this is just such an important agency, and the work that you guys do is really in the community, and that's, I just need to understand that people in the people that know the community, because I'll be honest with you, I heard that there were no employees, that you were just using agency people, people in a temp agency. So that, to me, just seemed a bit concerning. I would like to see you hire people that know the community, that live in the community, that can help bring these programs that we're getting funding for, because as we all know, there's grants out there, and if they're not used, we lose the funding, and I don't want to see us lose a dime, because we're at a point where we can't afford to lose a single penny in the city of Brockton.
So all I can say is, the temperament that you see that I bring here tonight is the same one that I always have. And then I also tried to enforce the expectation that we were supposed to work from the office and not from home. And I know that that was not something that people like to hear. And I know also several people approached me about providing raises to them that they had never gotten when the previous management was there. And I didn't know people to be awarding raises. I'm all for rewarding good work. But if I'm here at 6 months and I'm there 1 month, 2 months, and people are telling me, well, I was due a month, I was due a raise after 6 months, and you're a year into your job, and then you're expecting only for me to provide that, and I don't know you. I think it's, and we needed to sort of like establish a relationship as well. And so I think there were a lot of expectations that I would fix long, deep running issues. And I couldn't do that because I didn't have time to really establish relationships.
And I understand that, and maybe I have to rephrase my question. So it's not what are you doing now to get people to hire people? Like, are you looking to hire people in the community? That's my question. It's not about, I understand that, and, I've worked for big corporations, and the first thing when they get an executive director is they bring in new people, but my goal is to bring in people that know the city, that know the programs. For example, we talk about food insecurity. We have one of the largest food pantries in the South Shore at Catholic Charities. I don't know if people know that, but the Charity Guild feeds students, feeds families. They have we have agencies that are feeding, people that are in need. So we just need people in the community that can bring the agencies together, that, can help bring the programs or help them get funding as well. So it's all about working together. So that's kind of my direction of questioning for you.
Yeah, and I worked, for example, Charity Guild has approached me about working with them in their collaborative around food security. They would like for the BRA to serve as a kind of like fiscal agent for them for a grant that they're applying to Liberty Mutual. And so if that collaborative moves forward, that will allow all of them to get all the maximum funding that they could possibly have received under that grant and to serve more people, because then they will continue to do their work in food security, but then they'll bring in an additional $100,000 and split it amongst themselves and magnify the work that they currently do. So we are working with the community. We do have staff. We're hiring with the intent to bring in people from the community. One of the finalists for one of our vacancies right now is someone from the community who lives right here in Brockton. We've met people who live in Brockton who are interested in our jobs, and so I'm trying to hire for the best person. Sometimes that best person is from Brockton, hence why we have a finalist right now who's from Brockton. And then other times the best finalist is somebody who's not from Brockton. And
that's okay. We do want the best person, and preferably from the city, but if they're not, we're fine from that. But my point is just that we want I want to make sure you're looking to hire, that you're hiring, that you're bringing in people, because, 6 months, as you see, pass by really quickly, and this is the first opportunity. I don't know, I'm sure my colleagues have met you, but this is the first time that I've actually had the chance to meet you. And I've gone to many BRA events, and I wasn't aware of the mixer you had last week, but these are things that you could share with us. I know I would love to, and in the past, the BRA's always shared events with us. I used to go to a lot of their events and help promote some of your programs, so please share the information with us. This is kind of a collaboration. This is a welcome, and to let you know that you can share your programs or your ideas with us so we can help promote them in the community as well.
And I'm very much open to receiving support. I always say, like I said at the mixer, the audience was the people we had in the room, because we feel as one of the reasons why I approached the nonprofits and why I approach the small business community is that I feel as though maybe officials within Brockton are kind of like overextended with being asked for solutions to these problems, And so I've always heard about the innovation that exists in the private sector. And so that was my reason in sort of like not really focusing too heavily in inviting officials to the event, because we wanted to hear from someone other than you, because you might go to a meeting and you're on the hot seat. And for example, when I went to the last Campello Business Association meeting, the mayor was there and he was on the hot seat. And this happens all the time, that you come into the room and everybody wants answers from you. And this was an instance where we're like, private sector, what do you have to say? What do you have to provide? What's your answer to this question? Because we know that the police department, every time that there's an issue, we see the chief, she's always at the meeting. We see all of the usual suspects, but we want to hear from the private sector, because we hear about the innovation that exists there, and yet we don't know what possibilities exist there because we don't hear their voice as much. And so maybe that's why you didn't hear from me, because I really felt as though the focus of the event needed to be the people that own businesses in the community, small businesses, established nonprofits, working together to come at a solution, where it's not just sort of like, the municipality continuing to be the ones furnishing the ideas and providing all the answers. So intentionally, I didn't invite too many officials, but in the future, I'll continue, just so that we get some marketing assistance. You will be receiving those invitations so that you can help us spread the word.
I think it's just about communication, because at some point you may come in, you may have a developer, this happened in the past, who may need some sort of, maybe a tie agreement, some sort of agreement. You may come in here with them, and it's good to have that kind of relationship of communication. It's all about keeping open, open communication, because we don't want to be surprised, and we want to be able to, so that way if we have questions, we ask them ahead of time, type of thing. So this is, I think this is great, but like I said, I would love that you share the information with me, events that you're doing, because that's how we find out what's happening. Sure. Otherwise, we don't know what's really going on unless somebody gives us the information. But I thank you again. It's nice to officially meet you. And Madam Chair, that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay. Natalie, nice to see you. I'm glad you're finally here. I was a little troubled when you actually brought up the fact that, and I don't want to to continue to hit this in terms of hiring local. One of the things that I see happening in Brockton all the time is we have Brockton organizations going outside of the community to get help when other communities are not coming to Brockton looking for help. So we are at a loss. We lose our positions, and we don't gain any with anyone else in terms of going the other way around. So that I know of, you actually have, and I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to get into personnel issues in terms of telling you what to do with your office, not to do with your office. The only thing that concerns me is the fact that the funds that come to the BRA are city funds. and they come to the city of Brockton to be administered by the BRA. Therefore, we actually have a say on what happens with those funds as well. Because when doo-doo hits the fan, it's us, the purse holders, that actually are held responsible for the funds not going where it's supposed to go. And that's why sometimes what it looks like somebody is bringing up some personnel issues or whatever, it might be some concerns that they have based on the fact that we're dealing with federal funds in most cases, or funds that are intended for Brocktonians. But I'm actually troubled by the fact that in a city of about 110,000 people, I know some of the characters that you actually had working for you that left. But what floors me is the fact that you lost all that language capabilities of this community, and you have not replaced it with one person. You don't have a single Cape Verdean speaking person in there. When the Cape Verdean community is the largest ethnic group in the city, you had quite a few of them back then. And again, I don't care what happened with them, what they did, what they didn't do. That's not what concerns me. What concerns me is the fact that you no longer have that capability. You no longer have the capability of having someone who speaks Spanish in that organization anymore, at least from what I know. You don't have someone that actually is today from Brockton. And it makes very little sense that we continue to say, well, it's up to the businesses to come to us versus the other way around. We're here in the service business. We're here to serve people. It's sometimes us that have to go to them because those poor businesses are busy trying to run and make ends meet with them. We should not expect them to come and seek us out versus the other way around. That's what my concern is. Mm-hmm. And the fact is, and it's bothersome, and it should be bothersome to everybody in here, every single person that replaced those Brocktonians were people from the outside of this community. And if you ask me personally to give you reference for a candidate to do whatever it is that you need to do, I could come up with 5, 6, 7 names by the time we leave here to help you mend the program back up again. Because I'm not going to tell you what to do with the individuals that were there, but I can tell, if you need somebody to say, hey, I need a college grad that has some experience in X, Y, and Z, I can get you those names. Mm-hmm. So that is the concern that I have as an elected official from this community, mm-hmm. whose job it is to promote and protect this community, to know that our folks, and these jobs are decent paying jobs. I mean, it's in their 70s, $80,000 from what I understand. You know, it's kind of hard for me to sit here and sleep well knowing that my Brocktonians, and I don't care what race they are, I don't care what language they speak, did not get an opportunity to work for an agency within their city. And please do not tell me you couldn't find qualified people in Brockton, because that is not going to, that's not going to do well with me, to be honest with you, because again, out of 110,000 people, I'm sure we could come up with a good 5 or 6 or so that could do that.
Okay.
Another thing that I wanted to address, though, with you is we heard from the Council on Aging and some of the seniors that we have in this community that, you know, live in their homes are getting a little older, and they need to come looking for those home funds from the BRA. But you basically said that those funds are only for emergency purposes, correct?
So that's how the program has been since even before I got here. It's not me who has reshaped it into excluding seniors. This is what I've found, and we are trying to find, because the demand, this is a program that has an oversubscription of applications, and so that is what the current program guidelines are. It's that it's an emergency repair program, and you find that from many communities because it's a way to sort of like narrow the pool, because you could then have everyone who is of the program of the income levels that are appropriate for the program. A lot of people will be applying, and the program could then be oversubscribed. But that's not a guideline that I put in place. That's a guideline that I came to Brockton finding. And even with that, I arrived to a 2-year backlog of applications, and that, and we're trying to narrow that in order to get more services to people. We have been doing that. However, that those guidelines were put in place before I ever got here, including in my finding the 2-year backlog. In terms of what you are saying about the language factor, as well as the local factor. What I do know is that, like I said, I found a candidate who is a finalist for a position now. She speaks she's of Cape Verdean descent, and she speaks Cape Verdean very well. She's a great candidate based on my conversations with her, and she's very enthusiastic to take on the position. I have been in the world of community development for some time. I do know that sometimes, I'm not saying that it's not possible to find candidates, but sometimes there's like a balance, that becomes imbalanced. Sometimes, like that the process of people in companies is cyclical. For example, when I arrived, I did find a lot of speakers of Cape Verdean background, and I also found 2 people who spoke Spanish, but then I didn't find anybody who spoke Haitian Creole, or I didn't find anybody who spoke any other languages in the community. And so sometimes, while one group might be represented at one time, another is, and so I'm not saying that there are nobody with the right backgrounds in the community. I'm just saying, sometimes, it just so happens that this group has sort of like an opportunity in this moment, but then another might not. I'm trying to hire, by keeping balance in mind. For example, we have somebody who lives in Easton. I know our previous director was from Easton. We had staff from Fall River. We had a lot of people so I don't think that the BRA has ever been just only Brockton residents. There has been a few, but I'm finding that, people came from all over, just as they do now, to work for the BRA, even though it's always been a small agency. And yeah.
But the issue, again, they might not be native of Brockton, but they know Brockton.
Mm-hmm.
The previous executive director was from Brockton, moved to Easton. He's technically from Brockton. Knows every single street, knows every single business in this community. So that's what we're talking about. Somebody that not necessarily lives in Brockton, but it is aware of Brockton, mm-hmm. that you're not knocking on doors that aren't going to be worthy of knocking, mm-hmm. in a sense. To have someone that has knowledge of this community so that you're not relying on others to provide you with that information, right. is what I'm bringing up. And another thing,
Madam Chair, may I just raise a point of order for a minute here?
Okay.
She reports to a board of directors. She does not set the hiring policies. So,
On a point of order.
We're asking her to answer questions that she doesn't have independent authority to answer, and I believe the questions are out of order for that reason. We should have the board here, the 5-member board of directors here.
Madam Chair, through you and to Council Farwell, the chair did not get rid of all the employees of the organization. And the chair isn't hiring all the individuals in the organization. As a matter of fact, my next question was going to be, where do you advertise for your positions?
We advertise on Indeed. We advertise on, primarily I've been using Indeed to advertise, and also the NCDA, because this is the National Community Development Association, because a lot of our positions require specialized knowledge about HUD programming. We have advertised there quite a bit. And yeah, so those are the avenues that we're using. We are trying to hire with diversity in mind, with with the understanding that Brockton residents do understand the community. But as I said, I have been in this arena for some time. And, I knew even I didn't know Mr. Jenkins personally, but I did see his staff over time, and this is just from being in the community development world. And, sometimes in one moment, there is one group that's represented and then another not so much. But eventually, everyone has a turn being on staff. And as I said, while I did find some people who spoke Spanish, I did find some people who spoke Cape Verdean Creole. I didn't find people who spoke Haitian Creole. I didn't find people who were from Africa on the staff. And I know, when I look at social media and I see the mayor doing flag raisings, in City Hall, and it seems as though there are a lot of different groups represented right here in the community. And so we're trying to bring in as many people of different backgrounds as possible, just as we're planning to hire someone who is of Cape Verdean background for our latest vacancy. But I think, sometimes it just so happens
What program is this person coming in for?
Pardon?
What program is this person coming in for?
For our accounting, this person would be handling, the just oversight of all of our funds to help manage that, to be in charge of making sure that everything is in order with our accounting.
So how does that help you outreach into, again, I understand the need for diversifying the staff.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in Africa,
Mm-hmm.
so I know a little bit about diversity, so, but when you look at 95% of the population of this city are taken care of by 4 languages, 94+%.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it makes sense for me to take care of the 94+% or 95+% than it is to bring in somebody that might speak a language here, a language there, because if we truly are trying to, and again, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to litigate the past behavior. What I'm trying to figure out is how do we move forward from here that my communities are being served as they should be served.
And that's what I'm saying, sir.
When we we run the Greater Brockton Minority Business Association,
Mm-hmm.
and we have 156 businesses affiliated with that group.
Mm-hmm.
And those businesses are taken care of by the languages that I just mentioned to you.
Mm-hmm.
So my whole thing is, how do we reach into those businesses? How do we reach into the communities? How do we reach into the Brockton of today versus the Brockton of 20, 40, 50 years ago? That's what I'm trying to say.
So that's what
and the advertisement, I believe, in your program needs to be done as such where we can help you get the people that you need to get into those organizations, because they don't, honestly, if you're doing outreach into the community and you want to find out what's going on into the community, not a single person that you hire is going to be all knowledgeable of everything that is to do with housing and business development and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But what you do need to do is, if you want to get some input from those specific communities with the lead program, the home program, to me, you got to go into those communities to get a sense from them and not sit here and say, well, they'll come to us if they need to, because we don't know how to do that.
I haven't said that. You've said to me.
Well, if you don't have the language capability, somehow it's very difficult to do that.
Councilor Rodriguez?
I have like I said, I have found that that there was not that much there wasn't that much representation of every language spoken in Brockton when I arrived. I think it's a myth that was the case. We had people who spoke some Cape Verdean Creole. We had some people who spoke Spanish, but there were other languages also spoken in the community not represented within the staff. I am trying to reproduce that effect so that people so that we try to respond as much as possible to the languages that exist. However, like I said, there's going to be a balance. For example, when I arrived, I found, like I said, the groups that I found, but now I'm also trying to bring that balance so that every group is represented. I'm not saying that people should be ignored or anything, but I'm working to address the issue, and I'm hiring somebody who has a background in banking, who's used to community outreach. She will be working, focusing on the accounting, but she is also able to assist with any outreach needs and with language needs that we have, and so that is there.
Councilor Rodriguez, your point is well taken, and you have a lot of important information that perhaps you would meet with Ms. Jean.
Oh, we have met.
And perhaps arrange to have her invited to the Minority Business Association meeting so she can meet some of the members and, see how she can help them, or the BRA can help them.
My entire thing, Madam Chair, is I get bothered when I hear people are not hiring Brocktonians because we can't find qualified people.
I've never said that tonight.
That's what I get bothered by. As a true Brocktonian, it bothers me a little bit. And then when I hear that people are being hired that don't speak the predominant languages of this community, yes, it can't be perfect. It can't be, there's I believe 17 or 18 different languages spoken in Brockton. It's impossible to hire, if you have 3 or 4 people working for your organization, it's impossible for you to have 17 languages taken care of. But one of the things, coming from a hospital whose job was, the job I had was about interpretation and community service, was let me take care of the largest parts of language, and then the onesies and twosies here, we'll figure out how to do that. That's what I'm saying. To me, I would take care of those pot first, the large ones, and then kind of work with the smaller ones.
And that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm hiring somebody who does speak Cape Verdean Creole as part of her, the skills that she brings into the position. That's not the only reason why she's being hired. She seems to be very well-rounded and a good fit for the agency. I'm never going to say that I'm only hiring you because you're Cape Verdean, because you're Haitian Creole, or you're Spanish speaking, but that is one of the skills that she brings in addition to all the others that she brings to the table. And I'm not intentionally trying to exclude anyone. We are building our staff. I am new and still transitioning into my full self. However, I will not put only language first, only certain capabilities first. I want a well-rounded person. This person happens to be Cape Verdean, and she also brings a lot of the other skills that are necessary to the table, and I'm very much interested in hiring her. She's very enthusiastic and wants to be at the agency. I'm working as quickly as possible to bring her in, and then we will continue to try to take into consideration the needs, the language needs in the community, in addition to all the other skills that we need, and that's what we're continuing to do. But in terms of people leaving the agency because for their personal reasons, I can't, I can't respond to that. People leave jobs for personal reasons and various reasons, and I am trying to hire so that we do have diversity within the agency once everyone is in place. And right now, one of the people that is coming in does speak Cape Verdean Creole. And like I said, when I came in, I did not find a perfect balance of the most represented languages within the staff, and that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to bring that balance. I'm trying to address needs. I can speak Haitian Creole. I can speak some French. I know that was not in the agency at all when I arrived. I know that there weren't even, when you go to the Campello Business Association, the demographics there is mostly white. And if we talk about diversity, there should also be people who feel as though they are represented in every way in the staff. And so there's a balance. It's not just only, Spanish and only certain languages that shows the balance. We are and this person is from Brockton as well, and so I understand what you're saying, and I'm trying to address it, but I have to find, the talent, and then also hopefully they also bring that additional oomph, and it's the language, it's the local flavor, the understanding of the local community. It's not something I am excluding from the from the picture. So I understand what you're saying.
No, I appreciate it, but because I'm basically saying to you, again, you keep bringing the past employees. I'm not here to litigate that. I'm just saying, as we move forward, as we go forward, we need to focus on hiring people, capable people, but focus on hiring them from the community so that they understand the community. I don't care what language they speak, but as long as they're from this community. I don't care if they're white, black, pink, or purple. So as long as they're from this community, because it's the Brockton Redevelopment Authority, Brockton. And that's what I'm saying. So to focus a little bit more onto Brockton, because these funds are coming for Brocktonians. These other communities, they get their own CGBG funds and their own HUD funds. The ones that are coming here are to be used for Brocktonians. So I want to make sure that we focus on hiring individuals from the city of Brockton, first and foremost. And then if you need that triple PhD from Harvard, then you can go elsewhere and get that.
And I'm sure we could even find that here in Brockton too. And I can, if I find that person and that's what we require.
But utilize, I mean, we're basically what I'm saying to you, and you keep going back and forth with I didn't find this language, that language. I'm saying to you, use us to help you hire people that you need to hire to make the BRA better than it was. That's basically what I'm saying.
So I think we're well on our way. As I said, we have our finalist. She's a wonderful person who seems very enthused about the work that we do. She contacts me, she wants this to happen quickly. I want this to happen quickly too. She happens to be Cape Verdean, and I think she would be a great addition to the staff. So we're on the same page. She's local. She speaks a local language that is very valued in the community. So we're getting there. We're in transition. Everybody who's going to be on staff isn't there now, but we're slowly building the agency, and we're trying to respond to community needs. I'm not saying there isn't talent in Brockton, but we're working to find it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Lally.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Glad I wrote my questions down. Good evening, Madam Director.
Good evening.
I just want to clarify from the very beginning that you're hired by the board, and the board is nominated by the mayor and appointed by the council. So that's the connection to the city side. To be blunt at the very outset, the people who you've been involved in hiring, do you feel as the duly appointed executive director that they have been the best people for the job?
Yes.
And have they been doing a good job?
Yes.
All right, then that matter's closed for me. I did take the opportunity to talk to some members of the BRA's board. You'll be happy to know that they were responded very positively. They were giving a lot of good feedback about you. I wanted to offer a couple of suggestions, both myself as a ward councillor that represents a certain section of the city, and if I may be so bold on behalf of the councillors at large, I think you'd find a good many of us happy to bring you around to, people and places we know and connect you to businesses in our parts of the city. It really behooves us to have the BRA functioning as efficiently and aggressively as possible. A suggestion I'd make also is some sort of association with BCA. Getting some kind of message or informational video or something out there on the air or on YouTube may be a big asset. The only other thing I would say, and you've already, demonstrated a impressive command of programs and subject matter, so I won't grill you on it. But the biggest thing that I receive, related to the BRA in my ward are calls about homes that have been abandoned or neglected, or that are owned by a bank that regards them as nothing other than a spreadsheet, a line item on a spreadsheet. And something the BRA has been very instrumental in the past is chasing these banks down and knocking those properties loose, getting them sold and rehabbed, and allowing those, that to no longer be sort of something dragging down a neighborhood. So I do hope that the BRA continues that.
Yes. I just happen to have an example that I can share, and it's something that's, it's a home that we've learned about through an application for the housing rehab program. And this woman is basically squatting in her own home. She lives in a 3-family property. There's no heat, no running water, no electricity. To go to the bathroom, she uses a bucket. And we had to, this is where some of the collaborative work had to come into the picture. We contacted Jasmine, and we contacted the health department. We contacted the building department. We all had to be on alert. And eventually, Jasmine had to swoop in and take her out of there. And she's crying, you know. And something else that I've learned that's really sad about her situation is that she's also behind on her mortgage. And we have a developer who is interested in maybe some way, somehow helping with that rehab process and then converting that into housing for the community. I had that conversation with that person today because it doesn't seem as though this person will be able to ever live in that home again in the way that she once did. Even though it sounds as though it's been pretty horrible for some time. And so we are looking at ways to sort of like, you know, rehab the community in the ways that the BRA always had, through receivership and perhaps even through perhaps a special deal with the developer in this instance where they can help this property owner by somehow giving her some priority for maybe one of the previous floors, but then we rehab the rest of the property so that maybe he also makes a profit after all of the rehab work is done. So that's an example that I can think of how we want to continue that work and just completely uplift and provide a facelift to the community in atypical and typical ways.
Yeah, perfect. Well, it's that. Gotta get it done somehow, so I do appreciate it. That's all I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Farwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Natalie, I think you said you were hired in May, correct?
Yes.
I'm just going to point out to my colleagues, I think we expect an awful lot of someone who's been here 6 months. In 6 months, we expect this woman to know everything about our community, how to recruit, how to reach out, who the key players are, and I'm not so sure any of us, I know when I had been in the mayor's office for 6 months, I didn't know all that. She does have an exceptional academic and work background. I would say to all my colleagues, it is not up to us to recommend candidates. And I would caution anyone who uses his or her official position to recommend candidates for jobs that they better contact the State Ethics Commission, because I do not believe we're supposed to do that. I don't even think we're supposed to recommend using our official title, restaurants or places of business. I could be wrong, but that's not our function. Number 3, she reports to a board. We confirm the members of the board. They're recommended by the mayor. She doesn't report to us. She doesn't report to the mayor. If we have something that we think she should do, then I would firmly support having the board come in, talk with them about how they recruit, the diversity of their staff, the positions that are open. No problem with that at all. But I think to tell her, you need to do this, you need to do that, I want this, I want that, going forward I expect this, that's not our function. That is simply not our function. That is the board, the Brockton Redevelopment Board's responsibility to set her job responsibilities, to set the objectives and goals that should be carried out. And now I'll share a few things with you. When she walked into her position, the first thing they had to do was straighten out some books, because when you have federal funds that are allocated for certain programs, and Natalie, please jump in here if I'm wrong, you've got to draw those funds down from the right sources. If you don't, the feds come in and they do an audit, and they point out all of the deficiencies that you have with respect to your funding. And did we not have quite a few deficiencies?
We did have deficiencies, and I've always said that whenever I have learned about problems at the BRA, I will be the first person to look for solutions. I'm all about somersaulting solutions and and just sort of like closing the book on problems. And so I don't want to come in here and sort of like, bring in all of our challenges only. I do want to say that whenever there have been problems, we have tried to overcome them, and I've tried to work with whoever wants to work with me in the community. And I just really believe in solutions and focusing on them and trying to get beyond them to sort of like get to the other side.
And we've, not to interrupt you, but we've satisfied the audits as far as I know, correct?
Yes.
All right. The other thing, and I would ask you not to comment on this, she had personnel issues, including hiring of relatives. That's been straightened out. There are other personnel issues that were handled that I think should be subjected to outside investigations. I think in 6 months, in a little over 180 days, this woman has done an exceptional job, and I hope that she can count on us for support. I have no problem holding her accountable, but I think we have to remember, she doesn't report to us. As Councilor Lally pointed out, she reports to the Brockton Redevelopment Authority Board. And for us to dictate how we think she should hire, how she should conduct her work, I don't buy that. I don't think we should do that. I thank you. And I'm almost ready to call the question here. I don't know if that would be appropriate or not. I don't know who else wants to.
Is everybody else set? No more questions? So once again, this was to meet you and to let you know that, you have our allies here. We're here because I believe we all have a common goal for the betterment of Brockton. And the BRA is a huge agency in our city. So I don't know which direction this went in, but my goal was to have you here to meet you and to hear like what your plans are. So thank you for doing that. Okay. And I look forward to maybe you can update us regularly on like things that are happening with the BRA. Like, I don't want to wait till just the annual meeting, but, whether it's in an email or whatever it may be, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I can get into the habit of emailing you, the entire council, on certain mailings that we have. Umuganda is like very big with us right now, so if there's a way that you can help spread the word. And I just want to say, I know that we focus quite a bit on the former employees and why they left. I really can't speak to that. As I said, I came in there. I am by no means a tyrant. I respect people. I want to work with as many people who want to work with me. And as I said, I was working for a far larger redevelopment authority, and there was lots of turnover when there was a new leadership. I think that happens a lot in agencies, and, the executive director does not get blamed or seen as the root of that, especially even before you even had a chance to make a mark on the agency. If I had been there 2 years and people started rumbling and saying, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and are dissatisfied, then I would definitely sort of like need to re-examine myself, because what am I doing wrong? But if you're leaving if I'm there a month, I'm there 2 months, some people I'd never even met, and they left before I even got there. And so I don't think that I can really respond to that. If you have a perception, even before I come in, and you decide to walk away, that's your choice. That's your decision. And I respect your decision, just as I will move on and try to rebuild the agency without you. I don't believe in letting one person stop a show. And so my motto is the show must go on. And so when somebody tries to sabotage the agency, tries to stop the show, I will always try to find a way to make it move, keep moving, keep getting better, keep improving. I just don't believe in stopping for one person or two people. The agency must move forward. And I will always steer the agency so that the best outcomes are the agencies. And I'm trying my very best to work with as many stakeholders as possible. I sometimes have developers who come into the office, they're hysterical, thinking, well, we're going to take over their property, we're going to take it by eminent domain, and I have to serve as that calming voice to say, no, we're actually eminent domain averse. We want to work with you. Don't worry. That's not what we're going to do. Just as, there's this concern about not wanting to hire people from Brockton. Absolutely not. That the benefit to the agency is having that local flavor within it. But at the same time, I cannot give that primacy if we want to get our work done. I'm not one of these people to say Brockton does not, or the local community does not have talent. I'm not saying that, but if I happen to find someone else who comes from outside Brockton who can offer their skills and move the agency forward, I will also take that person. And then, I will continue to always want to work with Brockton residents. They really do understand the community. They really do want, they understand it in a way that no one else can. And so I will always take that into consideration when I go to hire people. And so, I want to be here. I want to make a difference here. I want to work with all the stakeholders. I think I'm doing a good job doing that in the past 6 months, and I want to continue to do that moving forward.
Thank you. You've said it, and thank you, and we really appreciate that. We appreciate you, and usually the first city council meeting's the toughest. After that, it's, they'll be, we'll be laughing and having fun, so don't stress. So thank you again. I know a few times it was said that you were hired by the board, but I hate creating these divides because, once again, the board is recommended by the mayor and approved by us. So, once again, it's about working together. It doesn't matter who's hiring who, as long as we all want what's best for the city of Brockton. So, with that being said, I make a motion to recommend this favorably back to the full city council.
Motion's been made and properly seconded to recommend favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you, and continued success for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilors, I want to end.
We have one postponement.
Oh, okay.
Madam Chair?
We have a postponement.
I know. Motion to postpone item number 2 to a meeting at a later date.
We had already read it, so that's fine.
Yeah, and do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and properly seconded to postpone the appointment of Dr. Larry Green, who has not joined us this evening, to a later date. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you. It carries. Okay. At this time, I'd like to close our meeting with a moment of silence. Would you rise with me, please? Thank you. Because last night, former First Lady Rosalind Carter died at age 96. Rosalind Carter helped propel her husband from rural Georgia to the White House. In 1978, the New York Times reported that White House aides considered her to be the most influential First Lady since Eleanor Roosevelt. She attended cabinet meetings and security briefings. She loved politics. Jimmy Carter said the most exciting moment of his life was when she said she would marry him, and they were married for 8 decades until yesterday. A moment of silence, please, in her honor. Thank you. May she rest in peace. We are adjourned.